was at the edge of the water, and Jacque was little, and he was kneeling down and putting concrete things on the edge of the water. And he saw this boat across the water, but in no time, he came right out of the water and got stopped. And
the main thing is that course that
Dale, derecho.
we're finished
No.
is when we are finished.
and they turned.
At this moment, yeah, this moment it's not ready.
Kind of bloody.
But yes, as soon as that would be, yes.
This used to be a pool, which was quite beautiful when it was turquoise, and we had a waterfall coming through there, and then we had backgrounds for Jacques' Cities in the Sea to film. But it was only me and Jacque, and we worked all the time, and we never used it. We had to clean it all the time and dump money into it. So now it's a fish farm. We're trying to raise fish to eat that duckweed off the water, but the duckweed's growing faster than the fish. So we're going here.
Jálale nomás. Que se atore. Ya agarra. Ay, tan fresquecito.
Sorry, it's cold in here. I'll turn it off. If we start here, I'll describe it to you. Sasha and I will describe it to you. So if you know much about Jacque, he's a multidisciplinarian, which means he worked in many, many different fields. He never believed that science was just like chemistry. He never could understand how all scientific discipline overlaps, you know? So he worked in every field. He started when he was really young with aircraft, actually. So he was working in 3 dimensions in air. And he learned a lot with that, and he brought that to other fields. And he designed aircraft. He designed a 3-wheel car, which was electric with the engines in the wheels. I think Toyota came out with that now. He was one of the first to do the airbag, but his airbag was within the whole car. It was a membrane inside the whole car. He worked with drug addicts and alcoholics and changed them, but he didn't care if they got off drugs. He wanted to give them a social conscience so they would go out and make the world a better place and teach what he taught them. He taught them very different values. So first what he did is he took the blame off of people. You know, that's a tremendous burden. And he put the blame on society that made them that way. You know, our environment that made them that way. So they really became very different. So he worked, when I met him, he was doing hundreds and hundreds of medical devices for a doctor. The doctor was patenting it in his name. He wasn't supposed to, but you know, this is what happens. So he did some of the first hip prosthesis and knee prosthesis, and he would do 7 or 8 different inventions every week and bring them in. He was a surgeon, this doctor. And I went in with him once, and he had a little room, but he had filing cabinets practically up to the ceiling, and you opened up any one, and they were all Jacque's designs. It was incredible. But anyhow, I wish we had access to them now. He died. So what else did he do? He did special effects for Hollywood. He did some of the first special effects for, he did the movie Project Moonbase, going to the moon. He never felt we were going to go, you know, that was a good aspiration to do, but he did the special effects for rockets and space stations. And he did all these apparatuses to make these models move, and he filmed all these. So we have about 400 hours of all these models being filmed. Of course, it's really old footage, and it couldn't compare with 4K today, so it's not that usable. What else? I don't know. Oh, Jacque made speedboats that won races all over the world. He wasn't interested in that. He was interested in just selling these things outright and then going back to work in his lab. He did all sorts of designs. He did some of the first 3D television without glasses and a 3D picture frame thing that I guess you look through the glasses on that one. So I don't know, he did I can't even remember all the things he did. But anyway, he was technical, so when we moved here, he didn't want to just talk about the future, he wanted to show people what the future really could be like and how you could lay it out and how you could design it. So this was before computer animation. He spent years and years and years, this is really laborious making these models by hand. So he wanted to show how you could get clean drinking water. And, you know, hundreds of people die every year due to floods and droughts. Same things, they build back in the same place in the same manner. So they have the same problems. So he wanted to show how you could bring canals in throughout the United States or Africa. And this is a desalinization structure. This would automatically come along and this would be dropped. And this would be evaporative condensation. The sun would hit it and it would evaporate the clean water. And the brine would come in the edges, collect the soil, the salt and stuff. Jacque felt that we should make buildings in dry dock just the way we make boats. So you drain out the water, you build with automated systems. All this stuff is automated. You build with automated systems, and then you flood the area, and on a catamaran, you would float this out to the site, because it's the least expensive in terms of resource use, least expensive to ship bulk freight on water. So with 1 pound of water pressure, you can lift this up just a little bit and move a ton of weight right over here and have a science research centers. And you know, I showed you that canal dredger that would make the canal automatically. This would come along afterwards, and it would melt the canal into obsidian, which is a very, very hard substance, so no human labor. This is going to the museum. You're seeing all the models, but in a couple of months, half of these are going out to a museum in Naples, a very good museum. They asked Jacque to do a show for 6 months. And one over 6 months now, all through the season. So we're working on that. We're renovating the models. So these are some aircraft.
We'll be using our hands to show everything.
But we can show a drawing. This is a drawing. But these are very, very old models. We have to renovate these because they're going to be hanging from the ceiling. This is going to be the hardest part. But Jacque started with aircraft when he was like about 13. And he built a whole structure, aircraft structure on the rooftop in New York City. He didn't have the money for the varnish, and it rained and it just all worked. But he was always making miniature aircraft and all different designs. And an interesting thing, I think, is that he took it to a hobby aircraft club when he was a kid. He took a very different, because his stuff was always really different. And he took a different invention of an airplane where the wings would be like an S shape and they would roll forward. And he brought it to them, and they all made the same kind of planes. And the kids looked at it and said, "What's that?" They didn't ask any questions. They didn't say, "What are the flying characteristics? Does it get off the ground?" Nothing. They just ostracized him because he was different. And when you go, and that's a problem, if kids go and look for approval from other kids, that's the worst thing that can happen. What you have to do is you have to teach them to be able to do things for themselves. They don't know how until today it's accidental. But Jacque studied the history of inventors, and we go over that more so, how you teach kids. But if you teach kids how to design, how to invent, and they see improvement in their own designs, they don't need another kid saying that's good. Because you won't get that from other kids. You'll just get them trying to put you down, so you'll be like everybody else. But anyway, we'll go over that later. So he did aircraft, he made aircraft for Northrop and for the Army. An interesting thing is when he went to Tuamotu, that island where everybody walked around nude, he went there also looking for answers for human nature, but he also went there because he said that his friends were going to be in a war, and he taught his friends about this new society, and they wanted to build it together when they were young. And he said, we're going to be in a war, let's go to an island so we don't get killed, and after the war, we'll build these things. He went to the island, and his friends never showed up because they were already having, jobs and other things and houses. And once you get hooked with family and kids and mortgages, it's very hard to be social or put your money a little bit toward this, or, you know what I mean? You're locked in. You have responsibilities, and you can't even talk about social ideas on the job site, or you can get fired. You know, somebody was talking to me about, well, why don't universities pick this up? You're very restricted. I mean, it's happened to me for a few jobs when I talked about social ideas or different ideas than the norm. I lost some jobs. But, so, when Jacque was on Tuamotu, it was a French island, and Hitler took over France during World War II, and he had to get out of there as soon as the French took it over. So he went back home, and he got drafted into the military, and they put him in design and development, and they had him designing aircraft and different things. And they said to him, can you make me a bomb that goes this way instead of this way, more destructive? And he said, boy, I wish I could, but I can't. But he could, but he wouldn't. So he said, the only thing I can do are safety devices for aircraft. And so he made the door on the airplane that comes down with the stairs in it. He made the skids for the helicopters that take people to triage very quickly. He did a lot of stuff. But anyway, so his aircraft are very, very fair, which means no corners, just like a shark, because a shark really gave him a lot of inspiration, because they've been around for a long, long time. They were well designed for the environment. But this is dead weight where the passengers sit. The only lift is in the wings. So Jacque was a big proponent for the flying wing. You make one big wing, the whole thing is lift surface, and you put the passengers in the wing. That was the basis for the flying wing. And when he first started, it was not a stable aircraft. So the industry, they kind of gave him a hard time when he was working for Northrop, and he designed flying wings. And they say you never get stability. Well, he turned the wingtip down, which gave him stability. He worked out a lot of things. Northrop ended up building some of the first flying wings in the United States. I think they built some in Germany before that. But somehow they made them destroy them. I know there's a documentary on it. It's not a conspiracy thing, but they made them destroy them. They had many of them. Did you ever see that?
Who destroyed what?
Northrop was one of the first ones to build a flying wing. After Jacque had made a lot of proposals,
But
designs for them.
they destroyed the crafts? Or
They destroyed them all that he made.
and why is that?
I don't know. It's a documentary you can see on it. But this is his helicopter. If Jacque was an aeronautical engineer, his helicopters would look like everybody else's helicopters, but he didn't go to engineering school, aeronautical engineering school. The jets would be on the outside, and the middle stays stationary, and the wings turn around, and then it goes forward. This one is the same thing, but when it goes up like this, it locks into place and then goes forward like a flying wing. So these are his designs. You'll probably see them in a few years. But that's the way it goes. You want to take whatever?
Yeah.
You want to take?
Yeah, sure. So this first part here is a little bit of what Roxanne already demonstrated. Basically, Jacque always makes the automated machinery to build other things or make things happen or transport or whatever it is. So all of the things that you see here have a purpose in building systems that would be completely automated. So, and then this part here is kind of answered question from before as far as going to Mars. Jacque is not really a big proponent of going into space until we unify basically all of the people here and then go into space as a joint venture. So mostly what you see is his designation is joint venture, it says on it, etc., so that it's very obvious that it's not one country that goes up in space, and even worse than that, usually one military that goes into space, and that's always been a problem. So our going to the moon at the time, or American going to the moon at the time, and Russians, was not due to some sort of experiment or this drive to go and explore. It was a military war, basically, Cold War. So, and then even so, if we would go into space eventually, Jacque was always a proponent of making it as safe as possible for everybody. So he would have these type of structure launched into space beforehand, on the way to whatever planet or wherever you would go to explore. And then if anything would be wrong with the craft, they could stop and resupply or refuel or repair or wait there for help or whatever it would be. So it wouldn't be a mission of hit or miss, just going and hoping for the best. So a little bit about that. And then we have some of the structures here, some of the ones that you saw before in the animation. Like Roxanne mentioned, a lot of this is Jacque and Roxanne just build all these models from different materials. They're very, very hard to build. I mean, they take a long time to build. They use materials different, like plastic. You can see ceramic here. Just different ways of doing things. And then this is another nice showing of, again, the dome. Roxanne mentioned before, we're going to have a little demonstration of why all these are around. And Roxanne already explained about some of the benefits. Another benefit of the dome is that once you finish it, once you cover it whole, then you don't need any kind of support structures in the dome. You can do whatever you want with that space. You can arrange it however you want. You can have movable compartments or whatever you want to do. So it's very efficient and it's very versatile, and it lasts for a very long time. And this is a little bit of, so that you can kind of see on the other side as far as how some of these are built.
Yeah. Jacque always felt we'd be going to war over water, and we are, you know. So Jacque always talked about building the solution into the structure itself. And he did this. One of the things I want to mention about all these models, we might have built them about 35 years ago or so, but the designs are from 60, 70, and 80 years old. So this is a shower, and the water would come out as not this round thing, but a slot. So you use the least amount of water to cut the soap off your hands, and then the soapy water would be stored in the shower wall, and then you'd flush the toilet and you'd clean it with the soapy water. So, you know, today they might say, well, flush the toilet every third piss, or they'd say put a brick in your toilet. None of that. You just build it into the system, the solution. So you might have about 25 different bathroom styles. These are very old, so sorry about that. And pick your color and then just plug it right in. You don't need all this labor putting it in. They're beginning to do stuff like this I've seen in design schools and things. And Dubai did this where you just plug the bathroom into the unit, but it was all ornate and gold inlays, and just a waste of materials. This isn't ornate, as you can see. And the reason for his architecture, why it's simple, clean, doesn't use a lot of resources, and can be redundant that way, is so when you do that, then everybody can have more to go around. So everybody can have a high standard of living. You know, people say, well, how can you feed, clothe, and house everybody on earth? You have to redesign and rethink everything. You can't bring in the architects of today, the way they're trained, and have them contribute to the city design in a resource-based economy. Because architects of today mostly, Jacque says, some people say, well, can you design a high-rise, an efficient, self-sustaining high-rise? And he said, I'm not interested in a monument to my own ego. That's where architecture is today. He's interested in total city systems and a new value system for society. You can build a beautiful house, you can build a beautiful high-rise that's sustainable, when generates its own wind energy, recycles water, whatever you want. But the education is getting more money toward it, but the bombs are getting worse. Worse, yes. Things are just getting more destructive. There's more money put towards military and destruction. So Jacque decided to devote his time, instead of toward products, as another product he did, was an efficient aluminum house after World War II, so that the aircraft industries would not go out of business. I can talk about that later. But he got off of doing products because when he worked with the drug addicts and alcoholics, for each one that he saved, the system produced 5,000 more. When he made the hip prosthesis and the leg prosthesis and the medical devices, only the wealthy could do them, could take them. His plane designs and his aircraft designs, the military used it to go bomb quicker and faster and more efficiently. So he said, what the hell is he doing making products? It's a value system that has to be changed and a social direction that has to be introduced. So that's why a lot of people come to him and say, well, can you build me a house? Or can you go into the house building business? He says, I'm not in the house building business, nor am I interested. I'm for the rest of the time I have, what's more important is a social direction and an alternative so society can move towards, so we have a future. So this is why we work on this instead of with architecture or with energy systems or with housing, anyway.
Well, just briefly, Jacque and Roxanne already mentioned in the lecture itself, this is just a representation of how sequential development, basically in the last 100 years, has resulted, where we are today. Nothing comes out of thin air. Nobody designs anything that hasn't been seen before, so we just build on our previous, not our previous necessarily, but also the work of previous people from around the world. And these are some of the designs that were Jacque's. Like Roxanne mentioned before, he was very influenced by the shark. A lot of times people ask why the shark significance. And so this would be the helicopter that Roxanne was talking about before. It has jets on the outside, and if anything would happen, if it has a malfunction or whatnot, it just gyrates to the ground and lands wherever. So it's very efficient. And some of the designs that Roxanne mentioned before. So this would be the model of an airplane that you saw before. With this part here can get detached, and the new one comes up, plugs in, and then it can fly away. So Roxanne already mentioned the benefits of that approach. And today, just to mention it, that there's been, the Boeing already came out with a similar design like that for the regular, let's say, size planes. But they can't implement it because no airport is equipped to do that. So basically, they have the design, but just because everything is so stationary, they can't even implement it.
Okay.
So this, yeah, so that's really the problem. And then some of the car that Roxanne was talking about before, Jacque designed a car that had basically 36 working parts. So that's it. It would be about this design. He had a rather interesting experience from the market system with that, and he lost basically the car that he made because of that. Yeah. So. What happened was he had his car, and then he didn't have anywhere to store it at that time.
Well, it's a little bit
Was it
different.
that way?
Jacque built this car twice. I don't know what happened with the first one, but the second one, he built it, and it was actually a deacon in the church came along and said, "This is a beautiful car. I will get it off the ground for you. I will get it in the market for you." And it had the name, we're redoing all this stuff for a museum. This will go to a museum, but it had the name Ultra on there. And that's what he named it. And so about 5 months later, Jacque saw the guy and said, "Well, what's happening? You know, where's the car? What's going on?" And he said, "Oh, I couldn't do anything with it." He said, "Well, I'd like it back." And he said, "Well, I've had it in storage for 5 months, and you'll have to pay for the storage." Jacque had no money. He never had any money.
Was it the actual size or?
Yeah, he built the car.
Oh.
And so he lost it. He lost it. And we had seen in Popular Science a car that looked just like this with the name Ultra. It was a drawing with a person in front of it. But, you know.
What do you mean he lost it? Like it's in someone's garage right now?
He had no money to give the guy to take it out of storage. So he could not get it back.
And you guys couldn't get it back? What? That's impossible.
Well,
Which year was that?
Jacque never had money.
Which year was
It was a
that?
long time ago. Long time ago.
So
Was it
the
before you
actual
met
car.
him?
You know, for every invention that you see out there, there are hundreds of people that have very good inventions, better products than what they have on the market, but they go down in smoke for many different reasons. They say, which is not true, that the free enterprise system gives you incentive, monetary system gives you incentive to invent. You have to have money for labs, you have to have money for patents, you have to have money for lawyers, you have to have money for people to produce your product, not by one, it's more costly than mass production. And you have to have money for advertising. So it's very, very hard all along the way.
And he was reluctant to work with like car manufacturers or invention to introduce the concept.
He
Please
couldn't.
Right.
You know, when you have inventions, people don't generally take them unless they're already developed. They don't invest in people who have ideas. They have to take them, is what he's seen all along the way. He designed three-dimensional TV without glasses. And he had a producer who got behind him, who really believed in Jacque. And he put out a lot of money. And he got it to a certain stage. You know, I think it was like 10 inches across. And what he did, there was a saying in a book that says you cannot produce 3D without glasses. And he put it on a block. And it was 3D as hell. And the producer, his name was Jacque Moss, brought the movie studio, I forgot the name of it, it was a very big one at the time. I'll have to ask Jacque, he's got a better memory than me. Technicolor, I think it was. He brought him in, and he said, "I want you to see this." And all the way along, the producer was saying, they would say, in the car, they were saying, "You can't do that, it doesn't work, it says you can never do that." That's why Jacque put that saying on the block from a book. And they came and they looked at it and said, "That's really, really good. But at 30 degrees, it fades." And Jacque Moss says, "Yes, it fades. That's why we're bringing you into this, so you can help back it." And they said, "Well, once you get it not to fade at 30 degrees, then call us. And he said, the hell with you. If we can do this, we don't need you. And Jacque didn't have the money to continue backing it. So you think that it's very easy. If you have an idea or if you have a design.
I don't think so. No, I didn't say that.
There.
I was shocked that the car was lost, first of all, because
The
I
car was
would
lost.
like,
The
yeah.
car was lost. Jacque had no money to get it out, nor did his friends have money to get it out.
This,
Yeah. So anyway, it is very, very difficult in this culture for design and development. If you think about having a society that backed science and development for the betterment of humankind and put all its resources towards that, the designs and the standard of living would go up exponentially. You know, if you design a food that cleans your teeth better than toothbrush, and you put it out on the market, you're going to get all sorts of opposition from the toothbrush people, because they have already invested in dyes and mass production and advertising, and they owe money to their stockholders. So they're going to do everything they can to keep your product off the market. When you think this is not a fair and just culture, and when you look for justice in this culture, it makes you sick. You can't look for justice in a society that's not just. It only makes you sick.
I think you may want to, I'm a positive person. Maybe there's a way to find those who think alike, and that way you would not be that dark.
Why don't you join us? And if you want to work on public relations, that would be wonderful. We need that.
Sure. I also was thinking maybe as far as the screen, maybe going after folks who have special projects in different companies that actually specialize in creating a screen. That doesn't require 3 glasses, right?
Jacque's not interested in doing products anymore. He started
No, at
with
that
products.
time, I just
Yeah.
that's an idea.
He started with products. But if things are falling apart, things